Welcome to part 2 of chapter 9. In this case, we're going to be using the animation method of jQuery, and we're going to be doing some chaining. So did you see that up top? We've got a lot going on here. The header comes in, H1, and then the H2 tags all show as a fade in. I'll do this one more time. Not the best usability in my opinion, but it's a lot going on at once and a great opportunity to learn the animation method. So let's go to our lecture and take a look at some of the code for this. So the CSS for this, you have to start the H1 in a position. So here's the CSS for it. You start at position relative, left minus 175 pixels. Font size 3/4 or 75%. Opacity 0.2. So let's take another look at that with that in mind. We hit refresh. We see it's 175 to the left. We see it fade in. So the HTML and CSS are a big part of this. But this is what happens. The animate function will change the font size to 75%. Remember, it was at 75%, so it's going to keep getting larger and larger as it comes closer, from 75 to 275. The opacity will turn to 1. Remember, it was at 0.75, or I think it was, let's go back here. Yeah, it was 0.2 rather. So it goes from 20% to full. And the left is 0 now, so it went from minus 175 to 0, and you can see it happened in 2 seconds. So that would just animate it. We saw something else happened after it got animated, so that's our callback. So what we're going to be doing is animating it with the changes that happened. Left plus equals 175. So you see that, let me go back. It went from 0 to plus equals 75. That's a concatenation operator, which you know from earlier JavaScript in this class. And it's also 2 seconds. But then the callback is this with the arrow syntax. We're going to take every H2, each one of them, and fade them in a row, 1,000, 1,000, 1,000. So let's watch the fade in, fade out again, because those are connected. So let's hit refresh. Watch the fade in. Here's the fade in, and then the fade out. Pretty cool. So that again, going back to our code, is this with just next, fade in, fade out. So take a look again at each one of the H2s. We've got this. They all did it at once. It wasn't like the next was the next one, next one, next one. It was the next for all H2s. So if we look at our HTML again, actually we haven't seen that yet. I do want to show that to you because it's important. So if we look at our HTML here, the H2s, they're all one level down, but there isn't like a wrapper div around them. And that's why that next will cover all three. Any H2 that is a child of the ID FAQs. All right, so it's fun to kind of experiment with that and take a real good look and force yourself to understand it. One way of understanding it would be to comment out each and every line. All right, now let's try one with 2 animations starting by a click event. So I'm going to go to my browser here, and what we're going to do is we've got FAQs animation, and we're going to do, I think this is the one with the click. So we've got, there's the click, there's the animation, and that's what we're going to look at. So what happened here is whatever got clicked, so this is the FAQs H1 click, and if you click the H1, which, I'll go back and show you. Here's the H1, click, there's the click, and back and forth. Kind of silly, I know, but basically that was the current target, and this is actually event target in regular JavaScript, but whatever it is, we're going to animate it. And there's only one thing that can accept this clip, so there's only one thing that'll animate. So it basically has the font size go up to 650%, the opacity to 1, left goes 275 from left to right over 2 seconds. And this is the callback. We're going to animate it backwards once it's done. That's why the header went out and back. Very cool stuff. So, a few more methods. The delay, stop, and finish. The delay simply delays the start of the next animation in the queue. The stop stops the current animation for whatever element is working. has a couple of parameters which are true or false. False is the default. When you set it to true, the first parameter will clear the queue so no other animations are run. And the second parameter causes the current animation to be completed immediately. Really need to see these things in action. I think we do have examples for them, which is wonderful. Finish, of course, is stopping the current animation for the element, clearing the queue, and completing all animations for the selected elements. Truth be told, finish is what I've been using in my past. It seems like I always did jQuery for iPad and kiosk applications. So this is HTML for a heading that is displayed when the web page is loaded. So remember the temporarily under construction. So this would again delay for 5 seconds. So it fades the heading out after 5 seconds and does it for a second. So we've got fade out after the delay. And this is an animation that moves thumbnail images down on mouse hover. So we've got the image list here, and when we hover, it's going to go down just a little bit. So this is stopping the bouncing effect. We basically have, okay, on hover, the callback, stop that target from moving, and then animate top to bottom 15 fast. And this is stop, true, animate fast as well. So it goes back and forth. Stop the bouncing effect, and then restart it. So let's take a look at this one. This is going to be the, I think this is the image swap animation stop. See that? So I hovered on out, it goes back up. And that's what we're talking about here. And that's a nice and useful thing for a slideshow. If you want to see something, you can add functionality to it. Very nice stuff here. Mouse in and out. Okay, so the Jquery Easing plugin. We're going to be doing plugins all next week too. They could be a real part of your final project in this course. This is a script element for getting the Jquery Easing plugin from a content delivery network. And this is the one right here. It's pretty modern. We've got Jquery 3.4, and then we put it underneath it. So whatever plugin needs to inherit the Jquery code above it, always put it below. And this is the syntax for easing with effects and animations. So again, fade 2 is a little bit different, but you got your name, the function name, 3 parameters this time, duration, the easing, and the callback. And the fade 2 has duration, opacity, easing. So fade 2 is consistent regardless of whether you're using effects and animations. And this is the basic animate, which we've already been doing, but we can add an easing property to it. Let's take a look. So these are 2 easings used by the FAQs applications. We can take a look at what it looks like here. And the idea is to just honestly take that chapter 9 code. This is the easings, and we're going to go ahead and we'll take a good look at it. See that? It bounced a little bit. Now it goes back up, bounces, and comes back. Bounce, bounce back, bounce, back. I would say as a just as a recommendation, have a reason for using this. If you have a reason, it's really good. But this basically says, hey, if it's minus, ease out bounce. If it's not a minus, ease in bounce. Remember, minus is the toggle class, and that's what that is doing. It's doing a lot of work is what it's doing. That's the easing, and that's the extra parameter that these take. So the method name, the time, and then the easing. You have to call the easing by name. This is kind of cool, ease in expo. But this is why I keep the docs open whenever I'm working with jQuery. And often I'll copy and paste their sample code and work with it. So this is an animation heading here for the H1. And you can see ease in expo, ease out expo. So let's take a look at that. I'm going to click that. And you see the ease. Look at that. Ease out, ease in. So click. And how that was done is back here. It's animate, and it's chaining 2 animations. It animated out for 2 seconds and animated in for 1 second. So ease in, and it's oddly enough the ease in seems to be the opposite of ease out. Watch, if I click ease in, ease out. So in and out. The easing is going, look at the speed. That's how you know. Fast, out. So kind of confusing that you would think that this would be ease out expo and ease in expo, but it's not. Ease in is like out fast and back. So you'll obviously test this stuff when you work with it. So this right here, I want to go to this link real quick. Let me go back and take a good look at that, because this is one of those things where you can keep it in your bookmarks. Maybe you have a collection of JavaScript bookmarks that you could hold with this, and this is the plugin that we're talking about right now. And what I always do is I go right to the demos, like here, ease out circle, ease out bounce. So you can control any of these, and then click it, and then see how it works, see if you like it. The plugins you're going to find, especially when we get deep into them next week, that they're always pretty advanced and pretty thorough. And you'll see a bunch of them have multiple arguments. Like this one has null, current time, start value, end value, total time. So you have definite control over the whole thing. And here you see an example of an ad for Pure.js with React with JavaScript flowchart. So you'll see that you'll have many opportunities of vanilla.js jQuery with React. So let's go back to this now. And this is the advanced syntax for the animate method. And this is what I was just showing you. Duration, easing, complete, which is Boolean. Remember, these are Boolean. Most of them are Boolean, except for the duration. Boolean meaning true or false, and they all default at false. So this is animate with advanced. You get special easing, font size, ease in, left, ease out. And once it's complete, we run this closure and fade it in next 1,000, 1 second, and fade out 1 second. So special easing is the advanced section there, straight from that easing plugin. So if you use a plugin for your projects, okay, just read the docs. Read the docs, use the sample code, comment it out. That's why you'll see in the final project the requirements call for commenting. This is how to provide easings by property with a basic syntax. So we've got the properties on the left, font size, boom, and what to do with it. Opacity, boom, what to do with it. Left, what to do with it. And that's the basic syntax. So it's a question of whether return on investment. If you want it, do it. It can bring attention to your work, but I would say definitely for the portfolio sites that hopefully you do with me, you have some calls to action that have some movement, and this is the way to do it. So animation has cues. You have that chaining that we just learned, but there's also a way to hold a cue for something to happen later. And you can time that. You can actually control what happens in what order, and you can animate a whole page. And so this is what you have. You have the cue. Get the cue for the selected element. So whatever it is, you're going to use it. And then you're going to replace that with this if you want to replace it. This adds a new function or callback to the end of the queue. This will remove the queue, so it basically runs the next item in the queue for the selective element. And this will remove all elements that haven't been run from the queue. Again, these lists give you an overview. Don't sweat it. Don't stress over it. Wait for the code. Wait for the examples and take a good look at them. So we'll be getting into properties maps in a second. The map is basically what properties we use. A queue is the order in which things happen. Easing describes the type of movement that's happening. Oh yeah, the carousel application in our book. Let me show you that. I think I have it right in that folder as well. So there should be in week 9 our carousel animation, which is right here. So if you look and I click on this, you see it's got several books, 9 books, and we only show 3 at once. And I can go this way, and if I click, it goes right to wherever you want it to go. So let's go back to that. This is kind of the final application of this this chapter, and we've got our carousel, obviously, which is div ID carousel. We have left button and right button, and an unordered list showing our work, which is usually how these things work. So the display panel itself is the outer div right here of the actual books, and we're going to have overflow hidden past that width. That's pivotal for the view right now. This right here is required for Internet Explorer, but this is going back quite a ways. Don't sweat it. Test for IE, but obviously test for Edge, and test for the more modern Windows browsers. That's important. So basically the list itself, make them relative, make sure, and when we go back to this, take a look at this list. The image list itself is right here, the unordered list. So you've got an HTML link and an image. Go back, and let me go back to the browser itself. So these are the image lists right here. We want to make sure there's no styles or anything like that. We can have many more for what we're doing, by the way. So this is the critical CSS. Of course, we've already talked about this. Let's go to the next one. The most important thing, which is this right here. So we've got a right button that on click, we have the event here. So that's for right button. Left property would be what it is. We have to keep track of this. The slider's the image list and where it is. And if it's 0, we take that left value, subtract 300, because remember, there's basically 100 pixels wide. There's 9 of them right now. And you'd have to adjust this using your own math and make the new left minus the 300 and animate it to that. New left property being that value. So basically, you're controlling the left indentation of the CSS. And this is the left button, which is going to be opposite. It's going to be plus 300. So pretty easy stuff here. Let's take another good look at the carousel itself, and let's inspect it. And we'll look at like the image list here. You see left 0, right? And what just happened? Now the image list has a left minus 300. Let's do it again. Now it's 600. Close, it goes back to 0. Same with left. It goes plus 300 when I go left. Oh, it should. That's interesting. Left. Oh, because I'm at 0, that's why. So if I go left now, it goes to 0. There you go. So I can click twice. It goes to 900. Always looking at this, and then going back to the beginning. So there are three different applications shown in Chapter 9. I'm going to zip that with the lesson and tear into them. Any of these could be your final project if you made it much better. Obviously, it's aesthetically not pleasing. It would be cool if you added things. But I have no problem if you take book code and work with it and do something that would, show yourself as being an authority on what was taught. Okay. Next week we'll go into more on plugins, and then we have right after that we'll start transitioning into WebD 171, which is more ES6 and more React, or at least some React, an introduction.